What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Hangover. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me is Shannon White. Shannon, how's it going, my man?
I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to this. Is our first podcast that I've been on since TJ Watt signed, so I'm excited.
There you go. TJ Watt did sign. He got the bag. Another major deal. Now the highest non-quarterback player in NFL history. What do you think about that? Did you ever expect the Steelers would have that title on a defensive player?
But wasn't it the last time he signed the big deal? He was the number one.
I think so. I think this is twice he does it.
But he'll only have it for a few days at most, probably till Micah Parsons signs with the Cowboys. They'll up it by $1 or $2, but yeah, growing up I never thought I'd see it, but it's the nature of the beast that if you got one of the best players in the NFL, you're going to be paying.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm all for it. I was a little bit surprised at the timing. I thought it wasn't going to happen until training camp. Were you at all shocked, or were you like, all right, it's about time? Or how did it go for you when the news broke?
Well, I wasn't expecting anything, obviously. So when my phone started blowing up, I knew something was happening. And I expected maybe a trade or maybe a free safety signing, free agent. And I looked and they said that TJ got locked up, for the hopefully retire with one helmet guy. And I was like, I'd predicted on the Pump Your Brakes last week. They asked, the last question was, did we think he would sign? And I was like, you talked about it. I thought he'd be around training camp or a week or so into training camp. But I said that I thought he would be at training camp, but he would do the sit-in like he did last time. But so I'm glad they got that out of the way, and now they can just focus on football.
I agree. I think the timing of it is perfect as well. It's this is a new. Well, there's not a lot of new. Well, there is actually quite a bit of new players on this defense, especially in the cornerback room. And I was going to say up front, the new addition to the up front line is going to be Derek Harmon, and so he's playing on the opposite side. He's going to be next to, or is he going to be next to Watt? Harmon's to the left.
No, I think he'll be on the same side as Watt, and then Hayward always lines up next to Highsmith.
Yeah, so I think you want Derek Harmon to have the guys that are playing around him the majority of the time going to be at least in a practice setting. So having Watt there, who's going to be his partner to the left, that's important. You have some new players on the defense. You lost Minkah Fitzpatrick. He was a leader on your team. And so, to have two missing, if TJ Watt would have been a holdout, I think that it wouldn't be so much detrimental to the team, but it really would, in my opinion, be a setback. And so to have him and Cam there at training camp, I think it's huge. It's important. I don't see them being pushed too hard, especially like in the hitting and the stuff like that. I think they're going to preserve them to make sure they make it through into the regular season. I don't expect them to be in any preseason games, neither Cam nor TJ. But it's good to have them there and build that camaraderie, build that chemistry there amongst the defensive line. And as I said before, you have a lot of new guys in the back behind them. And so it's good for him to be there. I'm glad that they got the deal done now. Plus, who's to say Micah Parsons didn't sign a $41 million deal? Then the Steelers have to hit it with 42.
Yes, exactly. So, doing it now was, And think about it. You got Hayward is going to be so important to Harmon, just as TJ is going to be so important to Sawyer.
Yeah.
And, having them there the whole time where they can, as you say, they're not going to work them too hard at camp, but they can be invaluable to those young rookies. And Yahya Black.
Yeah.
He's another guy that will be able to benefit from their tutelage. So, I just think it was going to get done. We were pretty sure of that. And so better sooner rather than later.
I agree. I think the only thing that may have been a holdup throughout this entire time is I think maybe the Steelers were hoping another team, maybe the Cowboys would somehow sign Parsons for less, and make the Browns contract with Myles Garrett look like an anomaly. But no, I don't think any of these pass rushers are budging. The value is what the value is. And so when you have TJ Watt, where I was looking at the stats with both him and Myles Garrett, I mean, he's just on another level.
Of anybody.
Yeah,
Anybody.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So well worth it. 108 million guaranteed. He has 108 sacks. You think that's a coincidence?
I think that somebody thought of that somewhere in there, but as you say, that's too much of a coincidence.
Yeah. And that was the great news from the other day. I was excited about it. I'm glad TJ is going to be a Steeler for the next 3 years. We got some other news today. Some uniforms dropped. They're going to be debuting I believe it's week 8 against the Green Bay Packers. It's the 1933 uniforms. The Steelers have used these uniforms in the past. I believe it was in 1994, if memory serves me correct. And they're gold with these black stripes going in a couple of different directions, like a crest looking type of uniform. What do you think about the uniforms?
I've seen different people talk about it. It's not my favorite. I'm one of the crazy people that like the Bumblebee uniforms. I think because they played so good in the Bumblebee uniforms. Maybe that's why I like them so much. I don't like the pants particularly. And I've read somebody today said, well, if you're going to wear the pants, at least wear black socks or mix it up, change the socks up a little bit to give it a little bit of a color contrast. Yeah. It's not the worst, uniform I've seen them wear throwback, but it didn't really excite me all much. I think the helmet's pretty tough.
You like the helmet? That's the one thing. I'm looking at an image right now. It's a matte yellow. The Steelers had a yellow helmet before, or a gold helmet before, and it was like a shinier type of contrast. Yes. That was the one where they had the white pants with the like color rush. I was not a fan of that helmet at all. I really disliked it. But looking at this one, that's a matte. I'm going to call it yellow because it looks more yellow than gold. Looking at this one, it's all right. It's got a gray face mask. That's interesting. I think I would have liked a black face mask with that. But I'm with you on the pants. That's the pants. It's kind of where I'm like, I like the jerseys though.
It's just.
But looking at it, if they wore black pants, I think if they wore black pants, that would have looked nice. I do like this jersey. I think I'm gonna actually get one. I think I'm gonna get a DK Metcalf.
Hey, I seen that one. The 4, it looked really good.
Yeah. But Freiermuth looks pretty. That one looks pretty nice as well. It'll be interesting. I think it's only one game this year, right? That they're going to be utilizing this.
That's all they've said is the one game. So we'll have to see.
We'll see. And what do you think about that game being against Green Bay? The one time that Aaron Rodgers gets to go against his former team, it's not even in a regular uniform. You think that's a added bonus, or maybe what do you think about that?
Well, I just wonder how many times each quarterback's going to throw to the wrong team, because depending on what uniform Green Bay has on, they're kind of similar.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're going to go in there with a yellow helmet. They'll have the white jerseys. Yeah. True story. I don't know, man. I think they're pretty cool. I like the jersey. I'm not a fan of the pants, but I like the jersey. I think the jerseys look cool.
Have you ever seen the AI of the different options that the Steelers could go to on uniforms? And they had one that was a gunmetal gray, a dark gunmetal flat, kind of with a flat black gunmetal gray helmet, and the uniform combo that had a lot of white and black. Oh my gosh! That of all the uniform combinations, I thought that one was so tough. And but it's only AI generated, so I don't know if they would ever consider that, because it is a little bit off of the color scheme. But I just thought that was the toughest uniform that I'd ever seen on any of them AI generated ones.
Yeah. If the Steelers wanted to do a good business move, it'd probably be a good move to have something like that, because it drives up, persons trying to get out there and buy these new jerseys and stuff like that. So I know the Steelers like to keep it, traditional, but kind of mixing it up a little bit with some extra uniforms here and there. I'm not opposed to that.
No,
it's a new age. It's a new age.
Yep.
I think the Oregon team, they change their uniform daily or weekly.
Well, being owned by Nike, yeah, but it's funny, the young players and this newer generation, they get fired up for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a lot of times they play better in those games. They feel more, I don't know, inspired, invested. I don't know, but they do seem to play well, and hopefully they'll play really good against the Packers in these. So.
Yeah, they're gonna need to. I mean, the Packers are going to be a team that's on the rise, in my opinion. Yep. They're not going to be a slouch. So there's going to be a lot on the line. I know Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers are not going to want to lose to Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Aaron Rodgers has a chip on his shoulder. I bet you that one has probably been circled along with the New York Jets since before he signed the contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You almost believe that, we think they had a kind of a handshake agreement, but that the NFL was aware that Rodgers was going to Pittsburgh, because that, like you say, that's must-see TV. So the NFL wanted that one bad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I no doubt believe that. I think that, well, I mean, you can look at what Vegas did. The odds didn't move much after Rodgers signed.
Yeah, that's true.
So that should have been a telltale sign that they had a full indication that was going to be what the case was. And I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I know I think I saw a post or an article here earlier today. Former GM, almost impossible to see Aaron Rodgers have a good year. What do you think when the talking heads say things like that?
Well, I read today also, they said the Steelers roster was the 19th best roster in the NFL, and they ranked them third in the AFC North behind the Ravens, who they rank number one, which they do that all the time. Mel Kiper and the NFL front office love the Ravens. And but they had the Bengals, I think, at 8. And I mean, the Bengals, honestly, they could have one of the worst defenses in the NFL this year, quite easily. Now, their offense should be explosive, but that top-heavy teams, Steelers know all about it with the Killer Bees. If you're top-heavy, you usually don't go very far. So, I just think that, yes, the Steelers tried something different. I don't think they tried to build a dream team like we remember the Eagles there. I think it was the late 90s tried when they brought in Vince Young and all them guys. But I think they did what was best for the near future, thinking next year and the year after. And this year kind of going all in to change the status quo, because we've all been begging for them to get off the Ferris wheel of mediocrity and try something. And I believe where all the questions come in is with Rodgers mainly, that people is just like, well, what does he have left? But as we know from watching, if he could just be an efficient and effective game manager, and they get a little luck on this health front, which they've not had the last couple of years, I think they can take a big step forward. I really do.
I do too. I mean, I think, when you look at the Jets organization and the offensive line that he had in front of him,
oh yeah.
It was not the best. I mean, yes, he had some wide receivers. He had Garrett Wilson and I think a few other guys, and the running game wasn't really the best. But the organization was also dysfunctional. They fired their offensive coordinator and head coach in the middle of the season. And there was talks about benching Aaron Rodgers in the middle of the season as well. And so, I don't know how much Aaron Rodgers had to do with those firings, as much as a lot of people like to point the finger in that direction, when you find out that Aaron Rodgers' head was kind of on that chopping block as well. And so it just kind of seemed like Like it was just kind of all over the place there. So I really don't want to take what he did in New York too much, as this is who he is. He did have a significant injury, and I think that's the other thing is his age plus the injury that he had late in his career. Can he hold up and be durable for 17 games? I know last year he was able to do it somewhat. I mean, when he played poorly, it was because I think he had a hamstring injury and he had some other soft tissue issues that if he ends up having with the Steelers, I mean, his performance isn't going to be obviously, top of the line. It may suffer a little bit. How much? I mean, we'll have to see. But, I think that's where I think the biggest question mark is he's got a pretty serious injury late in his career. Last year, he flashed a little bit, and he stayed healthy, but he really wasn't completely healthy the entire time. What are your thoughts? Do you think that where are your concerns with Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I think if we look, I think it was his last 7 games. He had some really, really good numbers last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at that point, they were struggling to run the ball effectively, the offensive line. And so he was doing, he was kind of, at times he had a few flashbacks to the old Aaron Rodgers. I think those days will only come in flashes. Maybe a throw here, a throw there. But I think, the Steelers are not going to expect that. They're not needing that. As I said, they need a game manager. They need his above the shoulders as much as they need his right arm. So I think the Jets thought they were getting 4-time MVP Aaron Rodgers. Now, I think he'd already slipped a little, but then, of course, he got hurt right in the first quarter of the first game.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. And then he wasn't the same anymore, especially a full year off and everything behind that line. And so I think what the Steelers are expecting is more realistic. And I think that the offense will be tailored more to where he is now as a player and as a quarterback. So I expect the best quarterback play in a Steelers uniform since being. I think that he'll be able to make the right reads, get the ball out on time accurately. And the Steelers could have won even more games the last few years if they could have just done that. We've seen Mason Rudolph do that. And it was magical to us. I guess to some teams that have a franchise quarterback, it was very, pedestrian. But to us, it felt like, just a magical Rudolph Saves Christmas type moment when he come in there on his white horse at the end of the year by just playing smart, efficient football. And I think Rodgers could do that.
You see, for me, I think the expectation's a little bit higher. I think that when it comes to the Steelers season, they got to get very, very close, to grasping that Super Bowl based on everything that they've done. Because if they don't and they end up in the same situation that they have been, where they're in the playoffs and one game in, one game out, and they're picking 22, 21, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now they've kind of done nothing to help them as far as the future of the quarterback position, unless Will Howard, shows up. All accounts and everybody, believes that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to target a quarterback early next season in the draft in the first round. And so it really is, this season has to go really, really good for it to be for it to have been worth all the trades and everything else that they have done, or really, really bad so that they still have the main core group of guys so that they can contend, but also be in position so that they can go out there and grasp that top tier quarterback in the first round next year.
Where I differ with that is the way they've done this. There is a ton of 1-year contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And there's guys on their last or next to last season of
Mm-hmm.
their current contract. Next year, they're going to be one of the, I think, third most salary cap space as it is right now. And then in 2027, they're going to be at the top. But then, of course, they're going to have to bring in more players because a lot of these guys are going to be gone. But what I'm saying is to me, this season is they're getting rid of all excuses. Is, Tomlin's going to have to show that he can do this. He can manage this rebuild. He can change his spots. An old dog learning new tricks. That we can open this offense up, be more confident, be more aggressive. That the defense can be more creative. What he's talking about is TJ going to line up next to Hayward, or is he going to line up next to Harmon? I hope they move him around. I hope this year we have some creativity. I hope we see Slay and Ramsey and Porter and the safeties, and these guys are interchangeable kind of, and where they're not so predictable and the offense isn't going to know what's coming. But I think this is it's going to make a big statement about Mike Tomlin, about Terrell Austin, about Arthur Smith. It's going to make a big statement about where this franchise is. Because as you say, it's either going to go really well and they can maybe win a playoff game and feel confident, going into that next year, the next draft, can they get a quarterback? Or try to sign somebody because they're going to have a lot of money in 2027. Maybe it'll be Will Howard. That would be great if they feel like they already got a guy on the team, but they're going to have to see a lot this preseason camp, behind the scenes practice. But I just think that by what Con and him has done is they are kind of taking away all excuses. And now we're going to see who these guys really are. And that ain't just players, that's coaches too.
And I don't disagree with that. But to all those points, that tells me that they need more of Aaron Rodgers than just a game manager. I think they're going to need some special moments out of him, and maybe kind of elevate the offense, especially a receiving core that, let's face it, it's DK Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and some question marks. Calvin Austin, he's quick, he can get open. He did some things, and when you look at the tape, you're like, man, the guy's open. He's open more often, but he's also very small and he's hard to see. Yeah, especially down the field. So you got to find him. You also got to hit him. The target area is smaller now with Aaron Rodgers. I'm hoping, he's more accurate, if not as accurate as Russell Wilson and some of the other quarterbacks that the Steelers have had. I know he's got a stronger arm than Kenny Pickett, and so and even Mason Rudolph. So I would expect to see a better delivery and a better pass. And possibly even be able to hit him.
And vision.
Yes, I also think the vision and the smarts. I mean, he's been in the game for a long time, so I expect all those things to work in his advantage. But for this to be a successful year, I think the expectation for Aaron Rodgers should be more than a game manager, and that's the worry, I guess, right? Because you do got to worry. For me at least, he's 41 years old, major injury. Or late in his career. Granted, last year he played the fully. I just that offensive line is going to have to hold up for him. It's going to be.
Oh, that's where the whole offense. Yes,
that's where the problem is going. Well, not the problem. That's where it's going to. The solution is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be in the offensive line, and I think they're up for it, man. I think they're up for it. I'm excited about this offensive line. I think they're going to be able to actually hold up for Aaron Rodgers. And I think that Aaron Rodgers staying in the pocket, being that guy that can stay in the pocket, not going to try to move around, and that not going to hold on to the ball too long, I think it's going to be a perfect marriage between what Rodgers can do and what this young offensive line can do.
And I'm hoping that Arthur Smith will, make sure he always gives him that security blanket, that drop off, that, a check down somewhere where, Rodgers needs, and he's willing to get the ball out if there's somebody to get it out to. And I'd rather see a 2-yard completion and punt than have your 41-year-old quarterback take repeated hits. Because they need to, sometimes a punt is okay.
Yeah.
And now I'm not one of these guys that, hey, if there's an opportunity to make a big play with his arm talent and his abilities, let's go for it. And sometimes, a long interception or, as long as you tackle the interception, it's like a punt.
Yeah.
I can live with that if the Steelers can finally start averaging 25 or more a game. But the ultra conservative vanilla schemes that they've been running, it's not conducive to scoring enough points in the modern NFL.
No, I agree. And I think that's one of the best things I like about the Steelers acquiring Aaron Rodgers is that he's not a guy that I think Arthur Smith or Mike Tomlin are going to be able to approach and say, "Hey, we don't want you to change the plays. Yeah. We don't want you to not trust your eyes." This is a different type of quarterback. This is a quarterback that you have to trust. And I believe if there's trust and there's that they build that trust with each other, Tomlin and Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers, I think the Steelers can go pretty far offensively. Well, let's take a quick break, and then when we get back, we'll talk more about the Pittsburgh Steelers, our favorite subject. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website, SteelCurtainNetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. Go check it out once we're done with the podcast today. While you're there, you can find the audio-only podcast, which include mine. It's called State of the Steelers. It airs on Saturdays at around 11 a.m. Eastern. You won't be disappointed. Go check it out. Without further ado, let's get back into the conversation. So you titled the show Steelers Nation, We Got a Question, Hope or Nope. What were your thoughts with the title and the conversation being directed towards?
We kind of talked a little bit about it. I know I'm not the only one that was just tired of the merry-go-round, as I said earlier. Wanted the Steelers to try something different, something out of character, change up the way they build the roster, the way they utilize the players, the player development. And we're seeing that. I wanted them to shake up the coaching staff, and the Steelers decided, I figure from the Rooneys and ownership to Khan and Waddle and everyone and including Mike Tomlin, that they didn't feel like they needed to shake up the coaching staff, and they really didn't. I think there's been a couple of small changes on positional coaches. So they obviously feel like a lot of it was players' talent or lack thereof, depth. I thought they had better depth last year, in most positions. Wide receiver still an issue, as we know, we've talked about. And they had some depth issues at cornerback due to injuries and stuff last year, certain positions that they've addressed most of them. Still wide receiver, and I don't think they're done there yet. I really don't. I think we're going to see something, even if it's early in the season before the trade deadline. But the question is, it gives me renewed hope that we won't see the same old. I don't care if they don't make the playoffs. As long as I see them moving in the right direction and young guys developing like Harmon, like Caleb Johnson, these guys, if they look like they're going to be stars or major contributors, Peyton Wilson takes the next natural step in his progression. These young guys, if I see that, I'll feel much better about next year because I believe they're going to try to get a quarterback, their next franchise guy. That's why they accumulated the draft picks and clearing cap space, So, but I think that, as we said earlier, we need to answer these questions. Is the coaching staff good enough? Is the schemes good enough? Is ownership good enough? Since Dan Rooney has passed, they haven't sniffed winning a playoff game. Let's just be honest. They had all their success during Dan Rooney's era, all the Super Bowls, everything. And since Dan Rooney has passed, it's not the same. Is there somebody in ownership that can step up and fill them shoes? And I don't know if there is, but that's mainly the question tonight. Do you have hope? Or do you like these changes and how they went out of their comfort zone? Or do you still feel like, nah, it's just going to be more of the same?
For me, I think the two moves that kind of put a little downer in my attitude about the hope or nope thing is the move when they traded George Pickens and then also traded Mika Fitzpatrick. Losing those two guys kind of hurt. Now, more so George, because you got draft picks that you can't really use this year. With Minka, you get Jalen Ramsey and you get Jonnu Smith back. Jonnu Smith. So there's something for this year. So I think that's the reason why that one doesn't hurt as much. Plus, there was a little bit of lack of splash when it came to Minka Fitzpatrick in the last couple of years. So that move didn't hurt, and I put that in quotations, as much as probably George. I think that's when I was like, when they had DK and George on and that was the idea. I was really excited, and I think the fact that they haven't replaced them with somebody that's somewhat comparable, I think that's kind of my hiccup when it comes to this season. I think once they do, if they were to get a guy like Juwan Jennings and they trade for him, then I think I would definitely be back up there like, man, this is really, really a good roster. I think that's just kind of where my hiccup is. But thinking about last season and the depth that they had, yeah, but they also had a lot of players, and I think or the reason why they kept the coaching staff, they had some depth and they had some players, but they had some players out of position and also not the right fit. So you had a running back in Najee Harris that limited what the offensive scheme wanted to do with the outside runs. You had George Pickens, who wasn't always out giving his best. In fact, you had to rotate him a lot because if he wasn't getting the ball, he wouldn't execute whatever he was supposed to do. And it caused issues for the offense. And, you only had Pat Freiermuth as a true catching tight end that you can have in there that could not be an obvious tell, such as like Connor Hayward and or Darnell Washington, where you kind of know, all right, this is more than likely a run or pass or those type of things. And so the offense became predictable in that sense. What they have done is they've replaced George with DK, and I think you're not going to have some of the same issues you had with DK as far as like the work ethic, playing in, play out, being there on time, doing his part, even if the ball's not going to him. You now have a running back that can run the outside run, which will open up the offense here a little bit, in my opinion. He's also got a home run ability that the Steelers haven't had in a while at the running back position. And so it makes defenses have to plan for that. And you have another tight end that can catch the ball. And a quarterback that can throw over the middle and read the defense there for it. So I understand, given the moves that they made, where they saw the deficiencies in the offense last season. I just really, really hope that they pick up another wide receiver to replace with George Pickens. That, or maybe perhaps they see a lot out of Roman Wilson or Calvin Austin. But only time will tell when we see those. What are your thoughts?
Well, again, I agree totally. Where we differ is, to me, George Pickens, I'll never say I miss that dude. He was one of those guys like Devin Bush that from the moment he come in, there was a part of his game, and it was his personality and his laziness, his pouting, his childish behavior that drove me bonkers. Just like Bush, he didn't want to hit nobody, and he played passive. And whether it was because of the injury or whatever, he lost his heart. He lost his, before he had some physicality, and then he lost that. And that's not how a Steeler linebacker behaves. And so I will not miss Pickens. But I do agree, if they could get a upgrade, that would, make us all feel better about the offense. in at the very least, in case something happened with Metcalf, be down for a while, to have another guy, because I do expect Roman Wilson to take a big step forward. And Calvin Austin being in that, third year, but really it's his second year, back fully healthy and everything. I'd like to see him take a step forward. But yeah, I just think that the offense, there were so many times that when they were, I don't want to say they were clicking, but they had really good time of possession. There, when Kenny Pickett, the second half of that 1 year, seemed he was really getting it, and he was making the plays at the end of games, the winning plays. And you felt like they was getting closer. And then you would watch the film and you're like, well, they were somewhere and he just missed it. He didn't see it soon enough. And then he would roll out of the pocket. He would get spooked. He had happy feet. And so I keep going back. If Rodgers cannot do that, and I don't think he can do that anymore. He don't have the mobility. So he's going to stand in there to the last second to get rid of the ball. Whereas we've seen Roman Wilson kind of turtle up. He would kind of turtle up if he couldn't, or he'd just chuck it deep out of bounds. I don't know how many times he threw the ball away last year. It was a lot. That was, he would get rid of it instead of taking the big hit, which, older quarterback makes sense.
Right.
But that's what gives me hope. And the fact that the Steelers keep doing something, seems like just about every week there's some big news coming out, or they're talking about this guy, talking about that. I see they were some reports that they may be talking to a couple of free agent safeties here recently, their agents. So I don't think the offseason is done by a long shot.
No, I think we lost Shannon there. Hopefully he'll be back. Or it's not me, right?
It went away for a second, but we're back.
Yeah, we're back. Yeah. We're back. Yeah, I don't think the season is done either. I think you're right. They might be looking at a safety. The wide receiver position, they've put out some feelers out there, so I do think that there might be something there, and I think that's what we're looking for. It's not so much that they lost George Pickens, in my opinion, that it sucks we lost George. It's they didn't replace him. In my opinion, because for a while there, and I know some people are going to say, well, DK replaced him. I go, yeah, but for a minute there, George was wide receiver too, to DK Metcalf, just for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And now, in my opinion, they lost that wide receiver too. That's the way I'm seeing it. And they need to replace that wide receiver too. And if they can find, a Juwan Jennings or if Gabe Davis ends up being a guy that's healthy a little bit later on in training camp, maybe they weren't too pleased with what they saw. I think I'd be more hopeful. I'm very hopeful. Don't get me wrong. I'm very excited about this season. I think that this team, if they can stay healthy, and I think that's going to be the huge thing, and probably more so like if DK Metcalf staying healthy. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to be a huge component to that too. He's going to need to stay healthy. But if DK goes down, I'm really concerned about that wide receiver room. You know what I'm saying? And the Steelers kind of had to deal with that last year with George Pickens when he went down. It didn't look right. It didn't look the same. Defenses were keying in on certain players, and things were becoming predictable to a certain extent. And that's where my concern is if DK goes down for a game or two, it's going to be rough.
Oh, I agree. You would like that upgrade. To a guy who can maybe fill some of that role. Right now, I don't know who it would be on the roster. I think they have some. I think they have some options if Roman Wilson can step forward and step up. But he's not going to be a number one. So, but if you had a couple of high level number twos, which at one point I thought the Steelers did when they had Johnson and Pickens, I didn't think neither guy was a one. Yeah. But I thought they were both, a quality two. You can make it work. But right now they don't have another two proven two at this point. And So, yeah, I still think they're going to try to bring in somebody. I really do.
So, it's kind of way too early to tell this, but what does, I know we talked about Aaron Rodgers a little while ago when we talked about this receiving core. We talked about a successful season. Stat wise, what would be a successful season for the Steelers? Let's start off with the passing game. Aaron Rodgers, how many touchdowns, interception ratio, yards do you think he needs to hit for it to be a successful season?
Well, I think it's kind of a low bar, with what we've got accustomed to since being retired.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to say, if Rodgers could have low 20s, touchdowns, maybe 7, 8 interceptions. To me, it's really going to depend more on the offensive line in the running game, because I think that's going to be the bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rodgers could play off of that, his success. So I'm going to say 24-8 is a step up for what we're used to. And I think that, we'll talk about the running and everything else later, but I think that would suffice this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a little bit higher. I think 27 touchdowns is probably where the bar needs to be for me for it to be a successful season. The interceptions under double digits, so 9 to 8, I think would be very comfortable with. I think that would be a successful season for the Pittsburgh Steelers offensively. It's a very similar ratio, 3-1 almost. 3 touchdowns to 1 interception. So it's not the craziest. And Aaron's had some even wilder years where he's thrown 4 interceptions the entire season. I'm not necessarily certain we're going to get that out. And the reason being is, he very well could be able to protect the ball, but there's the wide receiver room again, who he's throwing to, and so that's my concern. Now the running game.
Don't you expect one of his? I almost feel like one of his buddies is coming, like Lassard or
Dobbs.
Yeah, one of them guys that he really likes and he relies on. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I just got this feeling we're going to see one of them at some point.
I wouldn't be surprised. Now, we mentioned the running game. I think that the Steelers are going to be a running game by somewhat of committee. I think it's going to be mainly Jaylen Warren and Caleb Johnson. I think that we might see a little bit of Gainwell, but his probably is going to be more in the special teams aspect. But when it comes to Jaylen Warren and Caleb Johnson combined, how many yards, all-purpose yards, do they need to have? That's catching and receiving for it to be a successful season for you.
Oh, wow. I was going to say like 1,500 just rushing, but between the two, saying that Caleb Johnson will get more involved as the year goes along. And I think he's going to have a healthy average because I think he'll hit a few. He's just going to be a little bit of a different runner than we're used to. We haven't seen a guy like him since Bell. And he actually has an extra gear that Bell didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
So, I ain't saying he's going to be as good as Bell. I'm just saying if he gets out in open space, he's harder to catch. Let's put it that way. But if we're counting receiving yardage, and remember we talked about earlier, I think Rodgers needs his drop-offs, his checkdowns. And we're looking at matchups here. We got to get the tight ends matched up in favorable spots, the running backs. So I'm going to say 2,000 because I think, we know how good Warren can catch the ball. But he's such a good blocker, they keep him in a lot of times, and then he leaks out. I think Johnson's going to surprise people. His hands are better than people think. He just didn't have to catch it at Iowa. And Gainwell is excellent on third down. So, I think 2,000 minimum. If you count all three guys, 2,500 would be a really good number.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was leaning towards about 2,200 yards all purpose. Yeah. I think that would be a really good season, solid season. I think it's going to be a committee, I think especially early on.
Yep.
But I do know that Mike Tomlin likes to have his bell cow. and he likes to lean on one guy. Now, I think that Jaylen Warren is young enough and he's proven enough that he's going to command his touches. And so I do think that Caleb Johnson is going to have an opportunity to show what he can do. But I think that opportunity is probably going to be maybe 50-50 on first and second down for a while. And then he might be getting a little bit of third down action here and there. When he comes to 2-minute drill, I'm definitely thinking that Jaylen Warren is going to be the guy that's going to be out there the most.
Experience, yeah.
Exactly. And so I'm expecting them to have a pretty good year, especially with this offensive line. They're going to be able to run a lot more of wide zone, which is what Arthur Smith wants to do. And these running backs are designed and more, in my opinion, that's when they were more, Caleb Johnson, that's what his forte is. And when it came to Jaylen Warren, I thought he was more successful when the Steelers ran, a wide zone running plays. So I really do think they're going to be able to do some extensive damage there. And I'm thinking 2,200 yards as well.
The speed is important. Ability to make, plant and go, one cut, see the whole, that vision is something that Najee Harris didn't have the speed or the vision. And I think all of these guys have it. So as you say, it's going to, as an offensive lineman, they're going to appreciate, if they can work hard and maintain their blocks and give a crease when these guys hit that crease.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. Now, the next one's going to be on the offensive line. How many sacks they have to not give up? Or what's a good number to have? I'll go first. I'm going to say that if Aaron Rodgers ends up with less than 28 sacks, if he's sacked less than 28 times, that's a good year. Where's a good number for you?
Well, I have a lot of faith in the interior because they were solid in the interior last year. Frazier, I think, was credited giving up one sack is all. But Moore led the league in sacks given up. Well, thank God he's gone. And then Broderick Jones, I think, was third. But he'll be on the right side where he should be on the left, which is his correct side, his dominant side. He'll be on the left.
Right.
And then we have Fautanu, who I think is going to be a great right tackle. And he will. And then one thing that'll help him is Rodgers in his experience and his pocket presence, and getting that ball out. Because that's going to be, he'll see that. That's, it's not his blind side. So I think that'll help Fautanu as he adjusts in his first full season, health-wise, Lord willing. But yeah, I'm like you. I think that with the improved running game, the offensive line improvement, I expect to see under 30 sacks. I really do. If there's more than that, there's been a problem somewhere. Either Broderick Jones fails or one of the interior guys suffers a major injury, which we hope doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, I'm right on there with you with that one. I think it's definitely got to be less than 30. Aaron Rodgers got hit 40. We was at 41 last year with the New York Jets. And so that was one of the more higher amounts for his career. And I think that had to do more with their offensive line. If the Steelers can be as advertised, make the steps in the right direction on the offensive line, I think they'll be well underneath that. But yeah, absolutely under 30 for sure. Which one's next? Receptions. Let's see. Who has more touchdown receptions, the wide receivers or the tight ends?
Rodgers. Right now, I'm going to say tight ends. Rodgers likes to use the tight ends, especially in the red zone. I think he has 3 quality tight ends. And Smith and Freiermuth and Washington, because I think Washington is going to be a much better pass catcher this year. And I think Metcalf's going to have the most receptions and the most touchdowns, but he's really the only main threat in the passing game for the receivers right now. So I would say the tight ends.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I was thinking the tight ends just because you have 2 really good options, a third one there with Darnell Washington. I'm anticipating them to be utilized a lot in the red zone. You're going to want to look at your big guys, and especially those over the middle. You put them in situations where they're in coverage with middle linebackers and things like that. And so you can really exploit those type of things. And so, yeah, I think the combination of the tight ends will probably have a little bit more, but it'll be close because I think you're right. I think DK will probably have the most overall as well. Defensively, how many sacks do the Pittsburgh Steelers have to have for it to be a good year?
When the Steelers defense, and then again, the highest paid defense in the NFL,
when
the Steelers defense is most efficient and effective, it's over 50. And that was with a 16 game schedule. Doesn't change. 17 games, you got another game. So I'm going to say over 50 minimum. And I'll say this because I think you will see more press, tighter coverage, take away those quick routes, quick throws. And I also expect the Steelers to have leads later in games more often and have an opportunity to hopefully be more aggressive and opportunistic. I don't think the sacks is going to go up as much. I think they're going to be higher than last year, obviously. But I think we'll see turnovers go up, which will give them less opportunities for sacks. Because I think they're going to create turnovers this year.
They're going to create. Well, last year they had 33 turnovers in totality. Yep. That's quite a bit. I mean, that's like 2 a game. You think they match that?
Yes, I think they exceed that.
You think they exceed that? I hope so. I mean, they had a really good turnover ratio. They only allowed 17, and then they had 33. So they were like positive quite a bit, 16, 17, somewhere there.
If they would have had more, it's just that the pass rush just fell off, especially as they went up against the better teams late in the year. But by that point, Watt wasn't the same. They wasn't being creative. They wasn't blitzing at all, just sending 4. So, yeah, I think we're going to see it go hand in hand. More sacks and more turnovers.
I hope so. I mean, that would be amazing. I'm with you on the sacks. I think they have to be over 50. I didn't answer that one. And with the turnover ratio or the turnovers, if they can have around that 30 turnovers, 35 turnovers again, that's an impressive year. I'd be pleased with that. If they go any higher than that, that's even better. I think last year, the turnovers that they did have, that was early on in the season. The last quarter of the season, they kind of dropped off when it came to the turnovers due to injury and fatigue. Yeah. So they definitely had the potential of having much more than 33 turnovers. But yeah, no, I would definitely that would be a dominant defense if the Steelers can get over 50 sacks, 35 plus turnovers, and the offense maintains some respectable amount of the possession of the ball. That's a dangerous team, in my opinion.
Oh
yeah. And how good of a season does Boz need to have for the Steelers to be successful?
Just regular Boz season.
There you go.
I mean, because honestly, he needs to be kicking more extra points.
Yeah.
And, last year it was 6 or 7 over 50.
Yeah.
I think he had 3 over 50 in one game, if I remember right. Because they couldn't hardly move the ball. And if they got over midfield, they had to consider it because they were struggling so much to put points on the board. If they have a more efficient offense, more modern offense, and can score more, we just need Boz to do what he does. And that's just one of the top 3 most accurate kickers in NFL history. And I have a lot of faith in Boswell. And I don't think, he's going to any massage parlors or anything. So hopefully we'll be all right.
I do too. This is a big year for Boz.
Yeah.
Next season will be his last season. So this one is the year before a contract is due. So if he wants to get a big payday next year, this is the year to do it, and he played well. I think for this to be a successful season, though, Boz needs to have less field goal attempts and more extra point attempts. And so if that ends up being the situation, that would mean that the Steelers are relying less on him and scoring more touchdowns. And I think that would be an amazing season for the Steelers. Keeping the percentages the same that they are right now. Hitting that that high 90 percentile. But instead of depending on threes, the Steelers getting sevens. That would be amazing.
In my lifetime, I thought I would never see a better Steeler kicker than Gary Anderson. Because Gary Anderson, because Steelers, even when they won the Steel Dynasty, the Steel Curtain years, they never had a really good kicker. I mean, the kicking and punting was bad. They just were so good everywhere else. But as great as Gary Anderson, Hall of Fame kicker, in my opinion, Boswell's better. Because if we remember, when Boswell first came to Pittsburgh, he was really accurate. He was tall and skinny and could not hit past 50. But he has built his body. He has really put the work in. And now he can hit from 60. And to me, Boswell is one of the top kickers that I've ever seen. And I ain't just talking about in a Steeler uniform. Boswell is the guy. And I was scared to brag on him for a few years because I was really excited about him. And then he had this one bad year. You know, and so I'm like, I don't want to brag on him because I'm going to jinx him. But the last few years, I just tell it like it is. That guy's awesome. He really is.
Yeah, he definitely is. He's you're absolutely right. He's worked on his craft. He's became more accurate, and he's able to kick the ball from a very long distance. And he tells you how it is. I mean, you can ask Matt Canada. He's not going to lie. He will tell you how it is. And you know, with Boz,
I love that. I'll love him forever for that.
You know, one of the biggest, most underrated things that he did was take that punt last year. When he made that punt, when Johnson went out, and it was a 42, 45-yard punt with some hang time. The guy had 0 return yards.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy can do it all.
And there would be a lot of kickers that'd be like, no. Because, you know, if you do good, people's like, you know, if you do bad, they're going to try to blame it on you because that was a key punt.
That was.
But, you know, that just shows he's more than just a kicker. He's a football player.
And the punter just got hurt. I mean,
yeah.
You got to go out there after they just severely hurt the leg of another player, and that's what you depend on too, you know. So it took some cojones, and he went out there and he did what he had to do, and he punted the ball very well in that game, and kudos to him. I mean, the Steelers ended up eking out a win, I believe, in that game, and a lot had to do because of Boz, and you know, I hope he has another great year. You know, and I hope that there's more extra points than field goals. But I hope he gets a bag. I hope he plays well enough to get the bag again. And so,
you know what I hope? I hope that he has a chance to win a Super Bowl with the field goal because I have a lot of faith that he would make it.
Oh man, I would. There wouldn't be another kicker in the league or in the world that I would trust to not make a game winner in the Super Bowl. That would be awesome. But yeah. Well, that kind of rounds everything up for us. Do you have any final thoughts for everybody tonight?
No, I'm just I know we're all excited to see him report and check in on the Latrobe and I don't know, it just feels fresh this year to me. It feels new. It's not the same old. So I'm very, very excited about it. And thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. And I look forward to seeing everybody on Wednesday. And we'll talk some more about the training camp, guys. We've waited through the dog days and you know, for me, a lot of times there wasn't hardly any sports to talk about, but football's back, baby.
Football's back. It's exciting. Make sure you guys check out SteelCurtainNetwork.com so you can check out all the news and coverage. Get some of the highlights, the articles, the pictures of the Pittsburgh Steelers at training camp. You don't want to miss it. Also check out that audio stuff. With that being said, we're out of here. Shannon, take us out, my man.